Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 74. Today, I want to talk to you about plateaus, specifically weight loss plateaus, and how to get over yours. Because out in the wilderness, a plateau is gorgeous and beautiful, and we love that. But on the scale, it can be a little bit discouraging. So in order to do that, I wanted to bring on 4 ladies who participated with me in creating my course called Lose 20 Pounds in 12 Weeks. And since creating the course, I actually changed the name of it to the Food Freedom Program, because the whole point of the course was not just to lose the 20 pounds, but to really blow through any mental and emotional barriers that stand in your way of weight loss and food and your relationship with food. Because as we know, it's not all about the weight. Like, the weight is great to be able to lose it, and it's super fun, and you can fit into your clothes better. But ultimately, what matters more than just dropping the pounds is how you do it, because you want to be able to have fun while you do it. And also, you want to be able to feel like you're free and in control, right? That your weight isn't something that controls you, and food doesn't control you, but you are in control of food. You have freedom in your life and power to create not only the weight that you want to create, but also the health and longevity that you are looking for. So I brought these 4 ladies on. I interviewed them at about week 7 in the course, end of week 7 in the course, and they're going to share with you their insights, the success that they had so far at that point, and some of the things that they learned along the way. So everybody, each one of these ladies has a different journey to share with you. They're all at different stages in their life, and several of them are related, which will be pretty fun to hear, like the similarities in their voice as well. So I'm just super excited. I can't wait to introduce them to you. Also, before I do, one of the last interviews, there was like this background noise that I can't quite take off of the interview, but I really wanted to keep the interview in here because this is a woman who is over 60. And whenever we're getting older, we keep thinking that our weight is harder. It's harder to lose weight. And I really wanted to talk to her about that. I wanted you to hear that. So if you can just excuse some of the background noise, then we'll be ready to roll. Okay? Welcome to the Cut the Stress Show, formerly the I Cut the Mustard Show, where you'll learn how to stop stressing, stop stress eating, and finally create the body that you can enjoy forever. If you're ready to lighten up, pun intended, then you're in the right place, because you shouldn't have to hate creating the body that you love. So I just wanted to start with Mindy, and I wanted to ask you guys just to come on and tell a little bit about who you are and kind of like your situation in life, so we can kind of just understand where you're coming from, and then like what was your big goals going into the program.
Yeah, my name is Mindy. I am a stay-at-home mom of 3 little ones. And so you can imagine what my life was like before this program. I still am, very busy taking care of these 3 little kids. They range from age 7 months to 4 years old. And so I came into the program wanting more energy. I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of weight to lose because I already lost the baby weight. I've kind of always been in a healthy weight range, but I wanted more energy and I wanted motivation to exercise. And I know Michele, and I know she is very good at motivating people to exercise. So I thought, this is perfect. I am a quarter-time student working towards a master's degree at Michigan State University. So that's also on the side.
And you even started the program a little bit later, right? Uh-huh. So when did you come into the program?
Let's see. I signed up for it at the very beginning, but then it got pushed to the side because of my schooling. That kind of had to come first. And so it was I think I finally caught up with week 4. So I watched the videos for week 1, 2, and 3 all within like a week. And then I was on track week 4.
Okay. So you've been here that first week, and then 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I was trying to figure out how many weeks it's been, maybe about 4 weeks. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I just got an email from you a couple days ago, and you were like, I have to tell you this great news. So yeah, tell us what has been your experience in the last 4 weeks then.
Yeah, so in the last 4 weeks, I started weighing myself every morning. I didn't really do that beforehand, but I just thought, let's see if I'm going to lose anything on Michelle's course. And I lost 5 pounds.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
so
was like, where did that
cool.
come from? But it felt pretty good.
Good. That's super fun. Yeah. Whenever you emailed me, I was like, really? That's so good. Because I knew you had started late. And that's really, really fun.
So I have been feeling a lot more energized. And I think it's due to I'm making better eating choices because before I was like, oh, I'm busy. I'm gonna eat the scraps from my kids' plates, or I'm just gonna do this I'm just gonna eat this quick thing. But you've been teaching me that it's important to fuel my body, and so in addition to like losing the weight, I've been feeling I've been making better choices in what I'm eating and reaping the benefits of that. So those are kind of like the physical things that I've been feeling, but mentally too, that's been really powerful to have the tools that you've been teaching us because I feel in control of my health again, if that makes sense. Before I was just kind of living, I have a newborn, I just have to get through the day. But now I realize that I am in charge of my body and I have these tools to make the choices to have the body that I want to have.
So many of us have been feeling really disempowered with the coronavirus situation. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are saying, I just don't feel comfortable going to the gym. I can't work out. And, but you just mentioned feeling a little bit more empowered. How has your perspective about exercise and the coronavirus shifted, do you feel like?
Yeah, I love what did you call it? The visualization that you did for exercise, because it totally changed my mindset and that everything I'm doing every day is basically exercise. Any movement I'm doing is good for my body. And so I'm realizing like, hey, just running up the stairs at home is good for my body. Or, I've changed my mindset. And so that when I take my kids to the park, I want to get up and play with them instead of just sitting on the sideline and watching.
Okay, awesome. I really like that because I was curious to hear how you had worked more exercise in as well. But even just thinking about the movement that you do differently and kind of categorizing more as exercise has been beneficial for you then?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been super helpful.
Okay, so my last question before we move to the next person is
Mhm.
yeah, do you feel like there's been a one big challenge or area that's been hard for you?
Yeah, the plant-based diet has been very interesting to me and very difficult to try and do because it's just a lifestyle change. But I've been excited to look into it more. I haven't completely switched over or anything, but I have been trying to eat more vegetables and more fruit and enjoy foods without so much salt on them and things like that. And so that's been very difficult to try and change in that it just takes different planning and kind of a different setup in the kitchen, for example. Um, but overall, I've been learning having that in my mind makes me more aware of what I'm eating and it helps me to make better choices, whether or not they're plant based, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. That was really fun. All right. So Melanie, we wanted to hear from you next. Tell us where you were at before you started the program and a little bit about you so we can get to know you a little better.
Sure. My name is Melanie. I am 39 years old. I have 5 kids that are school age, so a little bit older than Mindy's kids. I work part-time, just a few hours each week as a speech language technician, mostly a stay-at-home mom. Before coming into the program, so my big goal for the program was to lose 15 pounds. And I didn't know if I'd really be able to do it in 12 weeks because I also have been at a pretty healthy weight for most of my adult life. I mean, I'd gain weight when I had my kids, then I'd lose it, then gain it with my next child, then lose it again. But if I lost 15 pounds, then that would be like um, my pre-childbirth weight. So before my first child was born. Anyway, so that was my big goal, was to lose 15 pounds. And then my smaller secondary goals were that I wanted to have more toned arms. I ran into an old friend that lived in a previous neighborhood. I ran into her at a store a few weeks before I started the program, and she had just worked out, and so she's in a tank top, and her arms were like looking so good. They were so toned. I was like, oh, I want my arms to look like Emily's arms. And so then when we started the program, you said, like, what's your big goal and what are your secondary goals? And so my secondary goal was to like have toned arms and shoulders.
Cool. So you started at the very beginning, or right off the bat. So you've been doing it for a full 7 weeks then. And how's the experience been for you then?
It's been great. So I just weighed myself this morning so that I'd have like an accurate update. And I've lost 7.5 pounds, which is really like more than I thought that I would lose. Anyway, so that's exciting.
So exciting.
And
Congratulations.
I've been lifting weights. So in one of our very first weeks, you talked about like what are things. Oh, I'm going to look it up really fast because it's in one of your little workbooks. It said, what might you need to let go of in order to make space for these changes in your life, and what clutter needs clearing? It was like in the very first week when we were talking about the new team. And I wrote, I need to arrange my schedule because every day I find time to read for pleasure. Like I love to read. I read out loud to my kids. I read, like I'm always getting books from the library, and I always find time to read, and I always find time to walk. Like I exercise every day, but I had never really found time to lift weights just because it was like 2 or 3 times a week. It felt like, and I can't go to, I'm not going to a gym right now because of the pandemic. So I just was not like finding a time to lift weights. So I decided instead of 3 times a week doing like a half an hour weight training session, I would just do it every day. Like before I got to sit down on the couch and read a book that I wanted to read for myself, I would lift weights for 5 minutes. So I just alternate arms for 5 minutes on Monday, legs on Tuesday, arms on Wednesday, legs on Thursday, arms on Friday, legs on Saturday. My free day is Sunday. And just doing it for those 5 minutes, like, and I'm just doing like body weight. So for my legs, things like squats, lunges, calf raises, stuff like that. And then for arms, I do have 5 pound and 3 pound and 8 pound weights at my house, but also just like push-ups and, just using my body weight. Anyway, so that is like super exciting for me that I'm in the habit of doing strength training every day. And even though 5 minutes is my like minimum, once I start doing it, it's so fun and it feels so good that I end up doing more like, it depends on the day, but often it will turn into 10 minutes or 15 minutes and my kids do it with me. And anyway, it's turning out to be so great.
I love that. I loved it whenever you told me that the first time because I love how you just made it. Yeah, you said you just put it right in your day and made it super simple, just the 5 minutes. I just loved that. And that you just like, hey, I'm going to do 5 minutes. I'm going to do it consistently. That's going to be enough. And I love how you, in the running world, we're always joking about like, just run around the block, like just get your shoes on and go run around because then you'll usually be out there longer. So this is a podcast, but we otherwise we'd have you show us your really ripped arms already that you've got going. Thank you for that. Yeah. So some of those are some of the physical things, and that weight loss is super fun, especially I'm really, honestly, I've even been surprised a lot about, this is the program that I take my one-on-one clients through. But I wasn't sure how well it would work if you're not like reporting back to me every week about what you're doing. And my previous clients too have kind of had a lot more weight to lose. So it was more of like the first 20 pounds rather than the last 20 pounds. So it's been really fun to see how quickly, that you're still able to make so much progress, even though it's that last stubborn piece, right?
Yeah, that's why I said at the beginning, like 15 pounds was my big goal, but I thought it would take longer than 12 weeks. So I'm surprised at how fast and easily it's coming off.
Yeah, that's really, really fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what are some other, do you have any other insights or things that you learned through the program that you want to share with us?
Sure. So one thing, probably my favorite thing that I've learned is when we learned about toxic hunger versus true hunger. I've been a vegetarian for a lot of years, like 7, really probably 9 years, I think. And so I've eaten lots of fruits and lots of vegetables and lots of whole grains. But when you talk about toxic hunger versus true hunger, what really stuck out to me was that I don't have to focus on protein. I felt like as a vegetarian, people were always telling me, like, make sure you get enough protein. And so I'd have almonds with my breakfast, and I'd have beans with my lunch. And I was eating lots of eggs too as a vegetarian. And so I was just trying to make sure I got protein. But for some reason, I don't know, it just kind of like what you think manifests in what you do. So when I learned about toxic hunger versus true hunger, and when you taught us, like, you don't need to be counting like all these macro and micronutrients, you can just like eat plant-based foods. And since I've been doing that and I'm not like focused on making sure I get protein all the time, it's almost like I thought I was going to be hungry if I didn't eat protein. And so then I was hungry, but now I don't think that I'm going to be hungry even if I don't like eat eggs and I'm not hungry. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's really cool. Yeah, that's a cool insight. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like the toxic hunger versus true hunger. And it used to be if I ate dinner at 5:30 and then I didn't eat for the rest of the night, when I was going to bed, I'd be like, oh, I'm so hungry. I wish I had a snack. But now I'm like, oh, I feel so good. Like it feels good to not be digesting food as I go to bed. Like I don't feel hungry. I just feel like kind of empty. I don't know. It feels good. I love going to bed not feeling like full.
Yeah. So like feeling light, like you can actually rest versus, like your body's still doing stuff. That's really neat.
For me, it's like a mental thing. Like once I just like turned my mind around and decide like, this feels good. And this is what true hunger feels like. I don't know. It has been really good for me.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I know whenever I first went plant-based too, I remember reading that book and realizing I don't even like meat. Like the only reason I've been eating meat is because I thought I had to. I thought I had to get the protein, like it said. And that was huge for me too. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm done. Like I'm done making that. So really cool how your mind can just shift so quickly. And I love how you guys have highlighted just some different things, whenever I'm creating the lessons for that day. I don't know. I wouldn't have picked out that one thing. Like that's not necessarily what I was planning on saying or planning on having you pick up, but it's just really cool that you pick out the things that you need. So what would you say, has there been a one challenge for you that you feel like you had to work on a little bit more?
No, I don't really have a challenge. I mean, it's been pretty smooth sailing. I feel like it's a good amount of time that I'm committing to it, like the lessons on Monday and then the week or the different journaling or the different activities. I feel like it's not too much of a time commitment for me, but it's enough that I am like, it's kind of on my mind and I'm continuing to think about it.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Actually, could you talk about your time commitment? I'm curious to hear as well. How much time have you been spending? I know I create the lessons. I try to keep to about 30 minutes. And then in creating it, we kind of go over a little bit as we talk for question and answers. But for the most part, the lessons are about 30 minutes. And then I'm just encouraging you to journal and do some few things during the week. But yeah, how much time would you say it takes you?
So on Mondays, I spend maybe an hour, like 30 minutes on the lesson. And then if you do a Q&A, and then 15-ish minutes doing journal writing or going through the model or, whatever, listening to the exercise visualizations. And then throughout the rest of the week, like Tuesday through Sunday, just about 15 minutes. So I do it every day. And that's just what I would recommend to people. Like, instead of trying to lump it all at once, I just do a little bit each day. So a little bit of journaling each day, a little bit of working through the model, listening to a visualization, or like watching the Game Changers documentary. I didn't watch it all at once. I watched it over a few days. Anyway, so I'm spending maybe like 2.5 hours a week specifically on your class, like doing the journaling, doing the different activities. So really not a lot of time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thank you for sharing the breakdown for that too, because that sounds really doable to fit in 15 minutes. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Melanie, we will hear from you in a second. All right. I've got Angie up next, right?
Do you want me to just introduce myself?
If you know the routine, then you just go, girl.
Well, my name's Angie, and Melanie is my sister. And I won't talk about her right now, but I am married and I have 4 children, and they are all school age, but a little younger than Melanie's. So mine are, and they're all boys. They're from ages 7 to 13. And so I also work from home. I own a business and I work with people with disabilities. And my boys are all doing online school also. So it's a little bit busy at our house, but in a good way, I think. So I haven't always been at what would be considered a healthy weight. And I was overweight as a child and lost weight like in my 20s, and then had kids and gained a lot of weight. And so I had lost, since my last baby was born, like about 3 years after he was born, I've maintained my weight about the same weight since that time. So about 4 years. In that 3 years, I had lost 60 pounds. And so I went into the program. Well, anyway, in losing that weight, I'm still a meat eater, still eating dairy. I felt like I had a pretty healthy diet. I did eat lots of fruits and vegetables, some meat, some low-fat dairy, and some whole grains. But I wanted to lose maybe those last 10 pounds, and so my goal coming into this class was to learn something new, also to do something with my sister and my mom together, a program together, and to give plant-based a try. So my mom and my sister and another sister also are all vegetarians and have been. And so I'm they call me like the meat eater family. And I always in the one at family gatherings that brings the meaty dish, or, something with meat for everybody that wants meat. And my family, my husband and my kids really like meat. But I would say compared to a lot of people, I haven't been a huge meat eater, but my family is meat eating. So for a long time, I've kind of thought, oh, I could never be a vegetarian. Oh, I could never do that. I like meat too much. And vegan, I don't know about that. All plant-based. I don't know if I could give up dairy or eggs. I like those things. And those are the things that I was telling myself. But I thought, you know what? I want to learn something new. I want to get a new perspective. And maybe I can lose those last 10 pounds, right? So that's kind of where I came from in coming into the program.
Okay, awesome. Actually, I don't think I realized that you were plant-based. I mean, yeah, because I kind of pulled from some friends and friends of friends. I wasn't sure how, vegan or vegetarian or where everybody was at on the spectrum. So that's interesting to hear you say that as well. So very cool. So yeah, just along those lines then, you said you were just wanted to try something new, but how did your perspective about it change as we went through the program?
Well, so I thought, well, I'll give it a try, right? I can try this. I'm not committing to it forever. I'll try this, that's kind of my perspective. Really, like the first thing I noticed physically was that I didn't realize that that I had really there's some discomfort and pain from the things that I was eating. So I went like plant-based and I was doing I was like, I'm all in the mornings. And then in the evening, I'll eat a little bit of meat or cheese or whatever with the dinner with my family. So that's kind of how I went into it. So I would do part-time vegan. That's what I decided. So,
Yeah.
But I started to realize that eggs really made me feel sick. And I thought I loved eggs. I thought I loved them, that I would eat them every day. I would have eggs for breakfast or egg whites, and I would eat them like really almost every day. And then I didn't eat them, that whole first week. And then on that Saturday, I think we had like breakfast for dinner and I had eggs and I was literally in pain. And I thought, why have I never realized that it physically affects me that way? So that was like a big eye opener and a big motivator for me to like really keep trying it and recognizing in my body what was going on and how I was feeling. So that was like kind of my biggest eye opener. And also, like Melanie said about the protein thing, I felt like, oh, I have to eat more protein. I need to eat more protein if I'm eating plant-based. How am I going to get all my protein in? But just learning about like the whole grains and the things like that, I started to recognize that when I was eating really whole grains, like wheat berries and brown rice and oats, that I was totally satisfied and it would last a long time. And I didn't need that extra protein with eggs or even nuts all the time or, other things that you typically think of as protein foods. So I thought that was kind of a cool insight. I loved learning that about myself. So
it sounds like which I hear a lot of people whenever they move towards plant-based, that suddenly you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize I had this brain fog that's now gone, or that I was feeling so gross all the time and now it feels totally different. So that's really cool that you could just tap in to what your body was doing a lot more. And also kudos to you too for just being like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go all in, or as far in as I can put myself for a while and just try this out and be open to it. That was really, really awesome. So tell us, you said you wanted to lose like the last 10 pounds then. So how's that going so far?
So in the first 3 weeks, I lost 5 pounds, and then I kind of lost a little bit of my motivation. And I recognize now that I wasn't like really focusing on the things that I was learning as much. It was a really busy time for me as far as like birthday and Halloween. And it was like all this together. And I regained, a couple of pounds. And now I have lost those. So I'm at 5 pounds down, which is great. Like Melanie said, I've had these 10 pounds for the past 4 years, and been, up and down within a couple of pounds of where I was when I started. And so of where I was when I started this program. So just to be down 5 pounds and at the lowest adult weight that I've ever been at in my lifetime, I believe, it feels amazing. And also that, it just feels like, why didn't I try this before? Why didn't I try the plant-based? But I know also it's the mental side of things too. So
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So just feeling, I loved it. I just kind of got a little goosebumps when you're like, it feels so empowering almost that you
mhm.
reach this new potential almost that, because it's not really, it is about the weight, but it's not. And whenever it kind of blows your own mind that you can create such change in your life. It's kind of what I'm
Mhm.
hearing you say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any other insights or struggles you want to share with us?
Um, oh, I was going to say on the mental side of things that this seems like a physical side, but I've realized it's a mental thing is that I have fewer cravings. Like I've always really enjoyed sweets and I just feel like I have fewer cravings. And I think part of that is because I'm fueling my body with better food. And so I'm not having those cravings. And I think also part of that's the mental side of it is that I'm focusing on what I'm doing in a positive way and I'm thinking of who I am in a positive way instead of focusing on, the ways that I might not be measuring up in, doing the different things in your program and just focusing on what I'm doing and what I'm doing right and really trying to focus on my thoughts and my thought work that you've talked about a lot. Um, so I think one of my biggest growths is that I'm recognizing sabotaging thoughts that I have. Like I recognize them now and I can question and change those. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago in the lesson, you were doing the model and talking about how you were talking about sweets after dinner. And that is something that I haven't had a huge problem with, but I do really enjoy sweets after a meal. And oftentimes I crave them. So instead of, I would have the thought, I want something sweet to end the day. And in order to feel satisfied, I need to have something sweet. And just recognizing that that's what I was thinking, I changed it to that meal was exactly what I needed. And that has been getting me to that satisfied feeling. So oftentimes after lunch or after dinner, I'll have that thought, oh, maybe I should have something sweet. And then I'll be like, you know what? I'll catch myself in that thought and think, you know what? That meal was what I needed, exactly what I needed. And I feel satisfied. And I mean, I'm not lying to myself either. Like I'm like really thinking about how my body feels and those sensations. And I'm like, I'm totally satisfied. It's a mental thing that's making me want something sweet, but I am satisfied. And so that's been a real breakthrough for me.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit? Because you mentioned how it's more positive rather than negative this time around. And just your example there, too. Um, what does it feel like at the end of the meal whenever you're kind of having your conversation with yourself about that? So, that question makes sense.
I don't know. I just feel more confident in that. And really, ever since we did the very first week and we did kind of the visualization of who we want to be, and just instead of waiting for that to happen, to just like be that person now, I have taken that and I just, I mean, I'm not always successful in this. I'm not going to say that, of course, but I've just kind of taken that as like this is who I am, and I am this new person, and as this new person, I'm already mostly there. Instead of like focusing on the ways that I'm not already that person that I'm visualizing, I'm focusing on the things that I already am on that as that
Yeah.
what the ways I already am that person that I'm visualizing as the person I want to be.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that makes total
focus on
sense.
that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. So instead of like, oh, I need to be better, I need to do this, and kind of, how
Mhm.
we do, just like shoving ourselves into it or trying to almost bully ourselves into becoming somebody else, then you're like, hey, no, I already am. And that's, I don't know, like this is who I am already. And so has I'm I don't know if you've covered this already, but has there been one big challenge that you felt like you had to work through so far?
I think I did kind of cover it. I think the biggest challenge was like the sabotaging thoughts and just recognizing that it is that mental, that I need to do like work mentally or like mindful in my mind, it's the mindfulness of what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. That's a big, that was a more of a struggle. And I recognize that that's something that I do, like nitpick and focus on I would nitpick and focus on the things maybe that I wasn't doing exactly right. And so being mindful about how I'm talking to myself and really visualizing what I want instead of focusing on what I don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love all of that. And since Melanie mentioned, I'm curious to ask you as well, how this is a quiz, no, but how much time do you usually put into the weekly lessons? It sounds like it's a little bit all throughout the day. You're just kind of thinking about it, but there's no right or wrong. But just out of curiosity, do you have a time set aside, or how are you doing it?
I am not as consistent as she is. I would say there have been some weeks where I have done like 15 minutes a day on the journaling like she does. But probably more weeks than not, it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
And she has motivated me just today in thinking, you know what, I can dedicate, 10 to 15 minutes at nighttime to look at that and think about that and focus on something. And I think that would be really helpful to me, kind of like she said with her exercise, adding that, just scheduling it in. I think that that's the thing. If I just schedule it in, then that will be better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot and having us
No,
honest.
that's totally fine.
Yeah, but which is good too. It's good to hear that, like, obviously you get more out of it the more that you put in, but just by going to the classes and doing it as much as you're already getting so much out of it, which is really awesome.
Right. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Like, just even though I'm not consistently doing something related to this every day, I think having it in the back of my mind, is fueling changes for myself. So
yeah. So it doesn't have to be a militaristic regimented experience if you don't want it to be. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciated everything you shared. We're going to hear from Alice. And then at the end, I just want to ask you all for some advice that you'd give for anyone who's going through this course in the future or any kind of weight loss course. But let's talk to Alice next and hear her story, and then we'll wrap up with that.
Well, I'm Alice, and like Michele said, two of these are my daughters. Mindy, I count you too. But it's for me, I was a regular and a normal weight, I think, most of my younger years. I'm 68 years old now and have 9 children. And by the time I had my 9th child, I weighed more than I did before. And about 10 years ago, I decided I really needed some help to lose some weight. And I lost about 45 pounds at that point and gained about 30 of it back. And about 4 years ago, I lost 30 pounds, and I was at my goal weight, what I wanted to weigh. But I really wasn't quite at my goal weight. I just didn't think I could ever get 10 pounds more off because it was easier for me to stay. And I felt like I ate pretty healthily. I'm not actually a vegetarian. I would eat poultry and seafood and eggs. But anyway, when Melanie mentioned that you were starting this class, I thought, why not? I would love to learn more about plant-based eating, even though I still eat some eggs and do some things like that and really like them. But I started the program, and right off the bat with that visualization thing where we would visualize ourselves where we wanted to be, how it would look, how it would feel, how it would smell, all of those things was really a great process for me. And I go back to that visualization a lot in my mind. I have this picture in my mind of myself with my shoulders back and just kind of looking sassy and just saying, you know what, I'm here. I lost these 10 pounds. And I have lost 6 pounds at this point, which makes me really happy that I've done that. Probably another powerful thing for me was when you talked about chewing our foods more and really savoring them, but chewing them. I've noticed, like, if I'm eating almonds or something, if I really chew them to the point where they're like almost liquid when they go down, there's just a whole nother flavor to them when you get to the point where you chew them enough. And then also eating fruits and vegetables first. You know, when I make my plate, I eat my salad or my sweet potatoes or my whatever it is first, and then if I have room, I eat maybe the other part. That was really great for me. Just those little clues. And I've mentioned before how much I like your podcasts. And probably one of the biggest ones for me was, I don't even remember the title of it, but it's where you could learn to like things that you don't think you're going to like. And I found that's really true for me. Once I start eating something that is really good for me, I don't know, even though it didn't taste so good in the beginning, your taste buds adjust to it until it comes to a point where you really like it. And we were talking about, one of the girls talked about eating sweets, that sweets don't taste as good to them anymore. I have found out how delicious a fresh orange can taste first thing in the morning. I never knew how good they could be. It's probably one I would have thought was sour 6 months ago, but it just tastes so good to me. And I think it was Melanie talked about feeling empty at night. I try not to eat after 5:30 or 6 as well. It just makes my body feel good not to have to worry about food, but just have that break from food. It's like it gets a rest. So I've done a little bit of intermittent fasting. I just try not to eat at night, and I maybe eat my breakfast about 9 or 10 in the morning, and find that really works well for me and has helped me stabilize. So those are some things that have been helpful to me.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of those. I really love how even in such a short time you notice that your taste buds have changed, because I think that's a big concern for a lot of people, even if you are vegetarian or even plant-based. So just the convenience foods are so easy to go back to, and then because of that, your taste buds kind of get used to the sweeter, the saltier side of things, and just knowing that very quickly it can change, and then all of a sudden it is going to taste good. Yeah, like the orange does actually taste good again, and it's sweet and it's wonderful, and you can enjoy it just as much as you used to enjoy those other foods that really weren't quite as good for you. And I can't remember if you had mentioned in the beginning of your story how old you are. You don't have to tell us the exact age, but I just thought for the listeners to give one of the biggest barriers really that I see a lot of people have is, okay, I'm over 50 or I'm over 60, so this is going to be really hard, right?
I'm well over 60. I'm 68 years old. So yeah. So you go into it looking at, my body's a little bit older. I'm not sure how well this is all going to work for me, but so far so good. I really do feel good eating plant-based foods. I've known for a long time, you put good fuel in your body, you get good rewards from that.
Yeah, awesome. Good. I'm so glad. And it sounds like, yeah, you're just right in the rest with the rest of the pack who have lost about, 5 to 7 pounds, which is really awesome. And so it doesn't seem like your age has really been slowing you down. So,
yeah, it hasn't.
Yeah. Was there one challenge or way that you felt like you had to grow the most during the last several weeks?
Well, I talked about this a little in our group coaching thing that we did, but going on vacation is really hard for me. And when I go on vacation, I just want to enjoy it, and I don't want to think about food, and I always gain a few pounds, and then I have to come home and lose a few pounds. And I haven't quite decided in my mind if that's okay and it's really worth it or not. But the suggestion was made, write down, what do I really want? Because honestly, I eat more than I really want when I'm on vacation. I mean, instead of just enjoying one really nice dessert, I want to have more than that. And so that is an important one, I think, for me to do that. And then also another challenge for me is just life. Life kind of gets in the way of my good intentions sometimes too, when hard things happen. And we've talked a little bit about that too, but it's important, I think, to face when we have emotions and feelings and thoughts and deal with those. And that's just part of what happens to all of us. And we're important. We need to take good care of ourselves. I think probably the one thing that I say to myself quite often is I want to be as healthy and as strong as I can be for as long as possible. And that's really true. I want that for my life. I want that for all of our lives.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. I love how you're just like, you're worth it. You're worth taking care of. You didn't say those exact words, but I didn't write them down. So, yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing all of your insights. And I know I learned actually so much from you guys just like chatting with you this last hour. And before we go, I just wanted to ask you to give us maybe a couple sentences of what would your advice be for someone who was coming into this program or really starting any new program. You could extrapolate there, but like, what would your piece of advice be for them so that they could be as successful as possible?
Okay, I think I'm just going to go back with what I just said. We really are worth it. We only get one body, and we really need to take care of this great body that we've been blessed with. And so just knowing that the foods we eat, the things we think, the way we act, everything works together for our good, and nobody can do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. And this coaching course has helped me. I think with the consistency of Michele, just on a daily or weekly or many times basis, sending a little reminder is very encouraging for me. So I've appreciated it. Thanks, Michele.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alice. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say, let's see, Michele, throughout the whole course, you say, don't do anything you don't want to do, which is key for me. But I would give people the advice to do the things that you do want to do and try out the things that Michelle's saying, and then try the things that sound fun to you or sound interesting, because then you can observe what happens when you do it. And that's really the convincing factor, I think, is personal experience with the things that you do try.
My advice is just to do the program. Like when Michele says, visualize the new you, then just do it. Like write down what you visualize, or what your new name is, or how your body feels. When Michele says, listen to the exercise visualizations, I think if you just do the program, then you'll have good results. So just give it a try. That's my advice. Give it all a try.
I don't know why I had to go last because they took my advice already. So I was going to say, try new ideas, but make it your own. So I always say to myself, I can do anything for 1 week. And so then that way I can try something on and decide what I want to keep and what works for me. So try new ideas, but make it your own.
All right. I hope you guys got as much out of that as I did. I really enjoyed talking to my friends. I loved all the insights they shared about trying new things, putting yourself out there. And one of the things that I really noticed is that just the little things, the little mindset shifts, the little changes in your diet can make a big difference no matter what age. So if you're interested in losing those last stubborn 15 pounds or so, or maybe the first ones, and winning the food fight this year, I want to help you. Click the link below and sign up for a free 15-minute call with me, and let's do it together. Yoo-hoo! Thanks for joining me. And if you loved this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend and make sure you're subscribed as well so that you can come back here and we can cut the stress together next week.